Good morning, guys. Sort of day one of practice. I've actually practiced like 3 days for this Houghton Lake tournament for the Bassmaster Team Championship Series presented by Omnia. But this is the first official day of practice. It is July 5th. It is 2 days prior to the tournament. It's Friday. We have the tournament on Sunday. But this tournament is going to be a really unique one. Obviously, we have the boating pressure from 4th of July, but we're also going to have the wind, which is going to be a big factor. Houghton Lake is the largest inland lake in the state of Michigan, so the wind is going to be a big factor, as well as boating pressure. So where are our boats going to be? What areas are we going to be able to fish? And then I expect it to fish pretty small from the sake of guys being on the same spots. So which areas do you hit first? Kind of how do you bounce around the lake to be most effective with your time. So there's a lot of variables that are going to go into this tournament, probably more so than any other event that we've had so far, not including all of the decisions you have to make inside of the tournament, like moving around the lake and making the right decisions on the water. So lots of cool things to figure out. This one's going to be a true blue offshore tournament. We're going to be looking for that grass in that 8 to 12 plus foot range, really those mixing grasses, and that's really where I'm going to spend a lot of my time. Those other days of practicing and graphing around have been looking for that, trying to find the grass, trying to find those good areas fish can set up out in that deeper water. There's mosquitoes all over. I'm going to get on the water and I'll catch you guys here in just a second. A lot of today is going to be graphing, but I want to start on some stuff Dirds gave me to see if it's any good in the morning, and then from there we'll start graphing. So I'm just trying to check some of this stuff to see if we can get on any sort of morning bite. I think the other big question mark is if I'm going to be able to get on a bite winding. There's a lot of what we have is like dragging or flipping to it as opposed to this winding bite, and so I want to see if I can catch some fish just kind of winding around some stuff. I'm struggling. I'm fishing that 7 to 10 foot range just off the break, and I'm throwing a bladed jig to suspended fish, but I'm struggling. I've gotten 2 bites. Neither were very good, both about 2 pounds. So hopefully things get a little bit bigger for us, but it's kind of the game plan so far. Just throw this bladed jig around, throw some moving baits, see if we can't get fish to come up, show themselves, and maybe even eat. Whew. It has been a long day with only 2 fish catches. And it's not because we're not finding good areas. I found a lot of what I would consider really productive areas for this tournament. What I'm looking for on my graphs, on my electronics, are these transitions, these bottom changes, these areas where it goes from like nothing to that grass edge, and then if you can find like bluegill beds or shell mixed along those transitional edges, that's what I'm looking for, and that's where a lot of our better fish seem to be coming from. Now I think it's going to take probably 15.5 pounds to get paid, probably 19 to win. So we got to have a bunch of those areas that we can really run to and check out throughout the tournament. I think this is going to be one of those tournaments where you're running and gunning, you're fishing areas really quick. You're using your forward-facing sonar to look to see if fish are there and target those fish. But for the most part, it's going to be targeting those edges, targeting those key areas on these transitions where fish are hanging out. So I've been spending a ton of time behind the graph. This has been a graphing tournament 100% of the way. And I thought it was going to rain. It started raining on and off throughout the day, but if you guys can see behind me, it looks like the rain's moving in. So I'm going to keep on graphing for a little bit longer. It's currently just after 3 o'clock. I've been out here since just after 5 o'clock. So we're going to graph around, maybe fish around a little bit longer, and then we'll probably take it to the ramp because we have one more day of practice before this tournament gets going. I feel pretty confident. I feel like we're around the right idea, around the right areas to do pretty decent. Nathan's found a lot of really good stuff as well. And it's just about putting in the time out here to find a lot of those key transitional areas where these fish are going to be hanging out at. So that's been the name of the game out here today. Looking for those transitions, looking for those areas for those fish to stage out here in that summer haunt. And this is a largemouth, smallmouth mixed lake, so just looking for those areas those fish can feed really easily has been really key. So I'm going to get back to graphing, and then I'll catch you guys back at the ramp. Just wrapped up practice here on Houghton Lake. stop number 3 of the Team Championship Series for the Bass Nation here up in Michigan. And this is a very unique one for me because I don't really know what we're on. And I say that not jokingly, not like Hubbard, where like we were sort of around 18.5 to possibly 22 pounds. Like I really don't know. Over the past week, I would say I spent about 36 hours graphing. If not a little bit more than that. I was basically trying to graph as much as I could, find those bottom transitions, find those areas where they had the shell next to the grass, and those little bit higher patches of grass in the midst of all of the carpet grass that fills this entire lake. So it's been a lot of hours behind the graph really looking for stuff, and I found a lot of really good looking waypoints. Nathan as well has put in an incredible amount of effort to really go out and graph a bunch of these areas to look for those key bottom areas where these fish are hanging out. And one of the features on the Omnia Pro app that I didn't expect to get as much play as it has is their vegetation layer, as well as their bottom hardness layer, because I've been able to really use those and kind of validate what I'm looking for in dialing in the areas that I'm practicing and that I'm fishing and that I'm finding some of this vegetation in. It gives you a starting point to know where to look for those things. So really, really good practice. I don't know what we're on. I didn't really stick a whole lot. I probably made about 20 casts today. Probably made about 40 casts yesterday. The last time I went out and graphed earlier this week, I probably made about 50 casts and caught a couple fish. But like a lot of time has been spent behind the graph really looking at things. It's going to be a really interesting one. I actually don't have a spinning rod on the deck of the boat for this tournament. First bait that I've rigged up is a swim jig. This is a Beast Coast Working Man. Then I have a cross-style trailer there on the back that's going to help keep this bait up in the column. This is going to be something that I'm really going to be using to search between those grass areas. That grass comes up in about 6 to 8 foot of water. This swim jig, 5/16 ounce, is going to stay up above that grass and allow me to cover that effectively and trigger some of those fish to bite. Then I'm throwing it on the TFO Option Bass 7.3 medium heavy. This is the same setup that I used for that tournament on the Saginaw River. Then to kind of complement that, I have a lipless crankbait tied on. This is a Booyah Rattling lipless crankbait, 1/2 ounce. I like that gold. It imitates a bluegill really effectively, and I just think it imitates what those fish are keying in on. And then I'm throwing this on a really long rod. This is actually a 710 medium heavy tactical glass bass rod. I'm going with the 710 again to really cover water. I use this a lot as a search tool in practice. When I was up on the front deck, I'd make a long bomb cast with that bait to cover as much water as I could, and then I'm throwing that on 15-pound test fluorocarbon line. And then basically what I'm expecting to do a lot of my work on is a 3/4 ounce jig. One thing that I recognized in practice was these fish like to really fast fall, so if I could see them on scope and you flip out to them, you could get a lot of those fish to bite with that really fast fall. And this is a Beast Coast Little Mag 3/4 ounce. This is a new jig in their lineup, but this bait falls really, really quickly. And then I have that paired up with like a twin tail grub style trailer, so it just falls to the bottom really, really fast. And I think that's a big key in getting these fish to trigger to bite. A lot of these guys are fishing to these suspenders, but by fishing something that falls really quickly, you actually elicit a reaction strike from those fish, and that's how I've been triggering a lot of my bites. Then I throw that on a TFO Tactical Elite 7.5 heavy moderate rod. That's my standard jig rod. I love that rod. 20-pound test fluorocarbon line, and then I have a flipping rod. So I have a flipping bait tied on. This is a Beast Coast Flippin' Delight. Again, just kind of to follow up that jig. Gives me something a little bit different, a little bit smaller, more compact profile. But that Flippin' Delight moves a lot of water, falls really quickly, and is going to be a big player. And I'm throwing that on a TFO Resolve 7.6 heavy. This is actually the rod that I was using again on the Saginaw River flipping. So 20-pound test line, all big rod kind of things. Hopefully we're going to be able to put something together. I'm really excited. We put in the time, we put in the hours. We need a couple things to come together. We need one of those really good, Houghton Lake 3 3/4, 4-pound bites, and that's going to separate us from a lot of people if you can get that fish in the boat. So that's what we're looking for. I think it's going to take between 15 to 16 to get paid, probably take 18.5 to 19 to win. So it's a pretty big bag. It's a mixed lake fishery, smallmouth, largemouth mix. Caught both in practice. You can't really pick out where each fish is going to live for the most part, and that's what we're going to do. Big stick in the hand, you know, heavy line, 15 plus pound test. Really excited to get out there and actually lean on some fish and see what we're around. I know we're around some good fish. I found some stuff late in practice that should hopefully play in the tournament, and I'm excited for this one. We're leading Angler of the Year right now. We're up by 7 points. We have to have a good finish here to kind of continue solidifying that lead and take it into St. Clair, where I don't necessarily know as much about. So really stoked about this tournament. I'm going to get to bed, get the stuff put in the truck, and catch you guys in the morning.